everyone, it's me Jordan here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, Generator's recently the most anticipated movie of the year, I'd say. Zack Snyder's Josstice League hit HBO Max in America and other streaming services around the world. It has been a massive talking point for the last few weeks, and so I thought it'd only be fitting for me to discuss it and review it on this channel, as I always do for when new movies and shows come out. So I've seen the movie twice since it's come out. It came out here on an Australian streaming service called Binge, which wasn't the best quality. It was 1080p, but anyway. So yeah, I've seen it multiple times. In case you want to know how I watched it to see if that changed my thoughts on the movie. So I watched the first 3 parts in one sitting, had my dinner, and came back to do the other half. And then for the second viewing, I watched it all the way through with like a 10-second break in between, just get some water or whatever. So if in case that helps you, decide what you think of my review, stuff like that, hopefully that helps. So yeah, I'm just gonna break it all down and tell you guys what I thought about the movie. As you guys know, my reviews are split into 3 different parts, which are the good stuff, the mixed stuff, and the bad stuff, the things that I loved, it was okay, and the things that I hated about the show, or not hated, but the things that I didn't like about the movie. And also because there's so much to cover, I'll do an additional section called the characters, just talking about like all the main characters and what I thought about their roles and their character arcs in this movie. And of course, as the title says, it is a spoiler review, so if you have not seen it, spoiler warning, please be sure to get away from this video, go watch the movie and then come back in case you don't want to be spoiled, even though it's been out for a few weeks now, but I just thought I'd say that anyway. And of course, we'll answer the overall question, which is, was it really worth the hype? Was it worth, all the campaigning for multiple years? And so I'll get to that when I get to my conclusion. So without further ado, this is my Zack Snyder's Josstice League review. Here we go! Now before I discuss the movie itself, I would just like to discuss like the movement and everything leading up to the release, because it is something truly historic. So when the theatrical version was released of this movie, and the movement began to gain traction, I was a heavy doubter of the hashtag. Although a fully completed cut of the movie had never existed with visual effects, sound mixing, everything, it had never existed, a cut of the movie had. And to all the people that doubted people who said like it never existed fully, well, it didn't. Only an incomplete version had. And that's why I was so hesitant with this movement, because I believed so strongly that Warner Brothers wouldn't want to go out of their way to spend millions of dollars to complete this cut and release it. And as Deborah Snyder, the producer / Zack Snyder's wife, said recently, they were never going to release this movie had it not been for a streaming service, as they would never put a 4-hour movie in cinemas. And before HBO Max came out, there was no proper medium or platform to put this movie on. So that's why I was like, I don't think it's ever going to come out. I didn't even think it would come out in 20 years because I was just so hesitant and persistent on the fact that the traction for the cut would die down and it would never be released, even though I would have loved to see it. However, I am more than happy to admit defeat on this one. To all people that persisted against all odds to get this released, I truly do thank you and apologize for ever doubting you. Thank you to Warner Brothers and HBO Max for finally allowing this movie to be released, for Snyder's full vision to be realized. This is canon in my eyes no matter what Warner Brothers says, because it fits with the rest of the Snyderverse movies. The tone, the story, everything. It fits more with those movies rather than the Josstice League. And to convince a major corporation like Warner Brothers to release it is something that has never been done before. And this is a truly historic event. So thank you to everyone who made this possible. It is amazing. Now let's go on with the actual review for the movie. Kicking off this review by talking about the good stuff. Here we go. To begin this review, as I said before, this actually feels properly made and fits the tone for what the rest of the Snyderverse was. Although the overall idea for the movie is pretty much the same, in regards to the Steppenwolf arriving on Earth and trying to get the 3 mother boxes and stuff like that to form the Unity, the overall tone and feel of it is something completely different and can completely pass off as a different movie. It isn't rushed, and unlike the theatrical version, which quite obviously had very specific plot points to get to, and they rushed through to get to it, such as him arriving on Earth, then uniting the League, then get Superman back. It just felt very, very straight to the point, rather than, fleshing out things naturally. This movie had time to properly flesh out all the characters, make everything make sense, consistency was maintained throughout it, and had the perfect tone. There were no unnecessary over-the-top jokes, color correction and reshoots in order to make it something that the DCU at the time just wasn't. It wasn't Marvel. It didn't have light comedy and random jokes and stuff like that. It was something in its own entity, and I think Warner Brothers really misunderstood what the Snyder Snyderverse was trying to be. It remained serious, grounded, but had the occasional, and actually funny this time, joke. This movie fell naturally and allowed us to better understand each character and care for them more, which allowed for better payoff and for the stakes to be raised. Now further elaborating on this idea of establishing these characters better, the backstory and added scenes in order for us to care for these characters really paid off well. In particular, Cyborg, who I will elaborate on in a bit. It all adds to the overall point I'm trying to make, which is that this version, while a little bit longer, I'll get to that soon, worked extremely effective to setting up the storyline and characters within it. However, it would have been nice to see Cyborg as well as The Flash and Aquaman, getting their own solo movies before this movie to further establish themselves and focus, more on the actual story of recruiting them rather than, introducing their backstory and stuff like that. And if they did, then they would have shortened this runtime and then they would be able to get this movie out in cinemas while also having all the backstory just in another movie, rather than having a 4-hour movie to do all this, because Warner Brothers, this is not a fault to Snyder at all, but rather Warner Brothers for poor organization and trying to rush and catch up to Marvel so badly. And given the job Zack was given, he did an amazing job of setting these people up in this movie. Everything else was further developed much more, including bringing back Superman in a way that actually made sense this time, with the house into smoke and back into house analogy, whatever. And the overall final act storyline, all of it was so much more coherent and brilliantly told, given the job that Zack was, which was very difficult, to introduce 3 people and bring them all together in one movie, and he put it off so well. Now, adding on to the fact that I said earlier on that this movie fits the tone of the other 2 movies, the Snyder Cut actually gave us context into what was going on and tied everything together much better. Rather than having 3 different ideas of 2 different directors' vision and all the executives interfering combined into one jumbled mess. For example, the opening few scenes determining that although the Mother Box had been awakened, previously with Cyborg's dad using it to save Cyborg, or Victor, it wasn't until Superman was killed that it gave them the signal that it was the right time to get the Mother Boxes. And even in the opening few minutes when we saw all this playing out and the death of Superman and then seeing the Mother Box wake up and everything, I just instantly knew that this was an entirely different movie altogether. And I'm just glad that Snyder actually got a chance to conclude his 3-story arc vision, because the ideas that were previously established in the earlier movies came back to play in this one, and it actually feels like it's all one big universe. It did an amazing job at setting stuff up in this universe rather than making it a self-contained story. Therefore, another reason why this version is canon in my eyes, no matter what Warner Brothers says, because it is an actual movie in this universe. It's not Marvel. As I said before, the Warner Brothers executives just don't get what the Snyderverse is. Additionally, the team actually felt very united in this movie, and every single member in the league actually had a role to play, and they all worked together to reach a common goal. Upon Superman coming back, he didn't dominate the final battle like he did in the last version. I mean, he did beat up Steppenwolf quite viciously, which was absolutely badass, but he didn't finish the deed. Batman destroyed the tower, the Flash time traveled, and more on all this later. Cyborg stopped the Trinity, and Aquaman and Wonder Woman actually helped to finally kill Steppenwolf with cutting off his head and everything. The Flash wasn't just used for comedy and could actually do stuff. Wonder Woman wasn't overly sexualized, and they all had distinct personalities. This is my Josstice League. This is what I envision Justice League to be, and it will always be to the day I die. Zack understands how to create a team and work together, and that is further evident in this movie. Additionally, as I said before, as the movie allowed for better character development and allowed for the team to feel more united, the overall stakes were much higher, and it allowed you to actually connect with the characters and care for them, and also setting up brilliantly what was to come in future movies. Steppenwolf didn't feel like a generic one-dimensional villain. He felt and looked more menacing and actually posed a major threat for the League. Even the color grading of the exact same shots compared to the theatrical, just makes it look so much better. Even in this shot you can see on screen right now with Wonder Woman, with just Wonder Woman theatrical and the orange skies, and then in the Snyder Cut we have Aquaman and Cyborg behind her in the blue, whatever. It looks so much better. All of this adds up to the movie being much grander in scale, which made this whole movie much more intense. Adding on to the color grading, the overall visuals in this movie is absolutely phenomenal. Look, say what you want about Zack's storytelling and acting and stuff like that, but you cannot deny that he never misses with his visuals. No mustache this time, and much better designs for each character, better CGI in literally everything, minus the Sard. I feel like his design and his CGI was a bit yikes. Other than that, everything adds up to this movie being one of the most visually pleasing movies I have ever seen. As well as the amazing action sequences in this movie, which really made all the heroes much more badass than they previously were in the theatrical version. And also the amazing score by Junkie XL or Tom Hunkelberg was a significant step up over the theatrical cut. In particular, both Wonder Woman and the Flash's theme, they were both amazing. And I didn't actually feel that the theme was overused. Like, it only adds up to about 1.5 minutes of footage out of a 4-hour movie, so it didn't feel like it was used that often. I actually really enjoyed hearing it every time Diana did something cool. And I'm really glad that they reused the Hans Zimmer theme, Superman theme, you know, when he put on the black suit and then he had the second flight, was it? I don't know what it was called. But when he started flying again with the black suit, that scene gave me chills and the theme added on to that a lot. This further helped in making the movie feeling much grander in scale and making more intense and much more epic, and it was done extremely well. Great job to Junkie XL. So that's just a brief overview of what I thought was great about this movie, and I'll elaborate on it further when I get to like the characters and stuff like that. But let's just move on to the next topic, which is the mixed stuff. Here we go. Now, very few things in this category, as I really enjoyed the movie, but as I always say, no movie is without flaws, and as much as you, David, want to say that Empire Strikes Back has no flaws, it does, and you'd be oblivious to deny it. The first is the obvious, the aspect ratio. At first, when I heard it was going to be in a square format sort of thing, like the Instagram ratio, whatever, I was like, what the hell? That's so stupid. And so going into it, I had that fixed mindset, and it took me away from the movie in the opening few minutes. However, surprisingly, after a few minutes, because I was so invested in the actual storyline, I didn't notice it. And after watching the movie, I did some further research as to why this ratio was chosen and how it better fit the IMAX look, and I understood what Snyder was going for, and I actually really appreciated it. However, it was still a little bit distracting through it every now and then, and I do like the cinematic ratio too. I think that looks more visually pleasing. However, I understood the artistic value of the aspect ratio with the square. So therefore, this is in the mixed stuff, as I see both points of view regarding why it looks better in this one and why it looks better in theatrical, so it's all good. And also, the movie, while did an amazing job at setting up the future of the universe, it also delivered with its fan service, but at the cost of telling the best story possible. For example, when Martian Manhunter came and talked to Martha, I felt that to be a very emotional scene, and further developed that relationship between the two characters. However, when we found out it was not Martha, but rather Martian Manhunter, I felt that it was very shoehorned into the scene and took away the emotional impact that it had, as it wouldn't have made sense for Jean to say that stuff, as he never knew Superman on a personal level like Martha did. And other scenes like Iris and Joker, which while were amazing scenes, weren't really that necessary to further the plot, but really only there to set up the future and add these characters in for the sake of it. However, it was still awesome to see Martian Manhunter in this universe and interacting with Bruce, so it's not all that bad. I still enjoyed the scenes for what it was, but in the overall picture, it's a little bit forced, therefore it's just in the mixed category because it's neither good or bad about the movie. And a final thing in this category regarding the movie is not necessarily about the story itself, but the rating it was. Now, I'm pretty sure I said this a few weeks ago in a Jordan's Weekly Breakdown, that, as long as they prove themselves to really need the R rating to benefit the movie, I would feel that it was put in there unnecessarily. After watching the movie, I could tell why Snyder felt it would benefit the movie in some certain scenes, and I did too, but in the long run, it could have just been PG-13, and it wouldn't have changed my opinion of the overall movie. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved seeing Darkseid being stabbed and having the blood all down his chest, and then him getting carried to the ship and stuff like that. Or Batman cussing and threatening to kill Joker was awesome, and Cyborg saying fuck the world and everything, that was all awesome. But the rating also comes with negative effects, in that it prevents people of a younger generation from being able to enjoy the movie in all its glory. Therefore, it's neither a bad thing in the movie, but it doesn't greatly benefit the movie. Therefore, it's not great, but it's not bad. Therefore, it's just in this mixed category, which is just where I put stuff that I'm not really certain what I think about it, just the mixed stuff. Clearly. And now let's move on to the next category, which is the bad stuff. Here we go. So before I get started on the bad stuff, I just wanted to say that, in case you're wondering why everything looks and feels so different, it's because only this file got corrupted. All the other ones are fine. It's just the bad stuff that got corrupted, so I'll have to do it all over again. So it's 4 a.m. in the morning, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so really the only major complaint I have for this movie, and I know that I'm not the only one saying this, is the length and the pacing of the movie. A longer runtime than the typical 2 to 2.5 hour movie runtime was inevitable for a movie this size, given that it had to set up 3 different characters in one movie due to the fact that Warner Brothers did not want to give them their own movies prior. However, a lot of it could have been done in order to make it around 3.5 hours rather than 4. As I said before in this video, the fan service, which was amazing, wasn't really that necessary and could have been cut down or removed. but in particular the slow motion dragging it out much longer than it needs to be. Like Aquaman walking down the pier for like 3 minutes straight, or a 2-minute scene of the Icelandians singing as Aquaman went into the ocean. Although I really love that song, and ever since editing it earlier today, I've had that song stuck in my head, so it's a good song. All of that could have been cut down a lot more to make the movie shorter, as the pacing of this movie was quite off. It had a very strong opening few acts, and then once it gets to the backstory of Cyborg, which was very much needed, it just dragged down a lot, and it was nothing in comparison to the rest of the movie. And then of course the phenomenal third act. And had it been cut down just a little bit, without cutting out the necessary parts, the pacing would have been much better, and it would have been easier just to watch it in its entirety. However, I did enjoy the use of chapters in order to separate the movie into different storylines and segments. So if a person, wants to take a break after 3 chapters like I did, they can, and it does not ruin the momentum that much for the movie. I mean, it did a little bit for me, but that's really because I just took a longer break. But yeah, you could take a break pretty much after any chapter and it'd be just fine. But if they cut it down just to 3.5 hours or so, then a break wouldn't have been necessary anyway. But yeah, it is what it is. We can't change how it was released. As I said before, the next segment will be just breaking down each character arc and what I thought about each character's role in the movie. So let's just get started with the characters. Here we go. Starting off the characters with Bruce Wayne or Batman. Now he was easily my favourite character in Batman vs Superman, and he was extremely badass in this movie. Now I know people have a problem with him killing or that Martha scene, but I've always said that was a part of his character development. And voila, he didn't kill in this movie. Nor did he Joker, even though he threatened to, but didn't.
And when I killed you, and make no mistake, I will fucking kill you.
And even if he did, that was in a post-apocalyptic nightmare future. While I believe he was not as epic as he was in Batman vs Superman, he was still really amazing in this movie. He wasn't shown to be old and close to the end of his career, nor the butt of jokes like he was in Josstice League, but rather was strong and still at his peak. They showed him creating different gadgets and modifying different vehicles, and he was badass and actually had a role to play in each battle. He had some great scenes with all characters, such as Alfred, and their relationship is amazing, and that nightmare scene in the epilogue with Joker, and more on him later. However, he was not given much character development in this movie, but rather was really only used as the catalyst to set events in motion, by recruiting all these heroes and bringing back Superman and then destroying the tower to destroy the dome. Look, while Ben Affleck's performance was amazing and continued to prove himself to be my favourite adaptation of Bruce Wayne or Batman in live action, the actual character itself did not have much development, but was extremely badass still throughout the entire movie. And even still, he was my favourite character in this movie, as I loved seeing him portrayed again very, very well. And probably the last time we'll see Batfleck in a main role in a movie. So yeah, it was great to see him again in this movie. Now next up is mustacheless Superman, brilliantly portrayed once more by Henry Cavill. Upon him being resurrected, which that plan to bring him back made much more sense in this version. With the analogy regarding the house and just smoking house, stuff like that with the mother boxes I was trying to describe earlier on. Upon him being resurrected, he fights the Josstice League, which was pretty much all the exact same as the 2017 version, minus the "do you bleed" line to Batman, by lifting him up in the air. However, I was also really hoping for a better way for him to go back to normal this time. I thought Lois was a Josstice League idea, like bringing her in and then bam, he just goes back to normal. I thought that was a Joss Whedon idea, but then it was a Snyder idea. So I was hoping for another way to bring him back, rather than Lois just coming in, telling him to stop, and then instantly he does. But that's really only a minor complaint. His overall arc in this movie is pretty much exactly the same as the theatrical, as upon him returning home, he shares some really nice scenes with Martha and Lois, and then we see him going into the ship and finding the black suit, and then that epic scene with him taking it off again, and it's like the first flight again, or as I said before, the second first flight, with the black suit and everything. That was absolutely epic, and I got chills in that scene. And of course the amazing theme by Hans Zimmer. I love that theme so much. However, I kind of actually do miss that line, in Josstice League where he says,
I believe in truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice.
and then he goes and attacks Steppenwolf or something like that. I thought that was a great line, and I really loved it. As I had always said, that although I loved seeing, him deal with the real world struggles in Man of Steel, of how does an alien live amongst humans in real life and how do people react to that, in both that movie and Batman vs Superman, I wanted him to be that typical Boy Scout version by the end of Snyder's vision, probably becoming the Superman we all know and love because he's finally adapted to this world. Like, that's character development. And although when he jumped in front of Superman's axe to save Cyborg and then beat the living shit out of Steppenwolf, I fanboyed so hard, he was so badass in this movie, he still wasn't that very optimistic type of character that I hoped him to be, but he was still extremely epic. And also the black suit could have used some extra explanation, in my opinion. I know Snyder said that he, got it because he just came back from the dead, and so he was using it to absorb the sunlight when he went up and flew over the Earth, which that was an amazing job, by the way. That's the visuals and the cinematography in that scene. Wow. But yeah, so I just thought, it made sense, but I wish they just said that on screen to make it more sense in the movie. And although it was a great design, I also kind of feel like it was forced in just for the sake of it, and I wish, he had the normal suit by the end, especially when he rips open his shirt as a reporter, and then we see the black suit. I was like, damn, I kind of wish that was his normal suit, but yeah, at least we got that version in the theatrical. Next up is the final member in the DC Trinity, Wonder Woman, who, as I said before, was a major setup in this version over the theatrical cut. She wasn't overly sexualized, and it was a pure warrior and badass. And even though the opening battle in London in this one was quite similar to the other version, the smallest of additions allowed it to be so much better. From the amazing yet slightly overused slow motion, I'll admit, the fight choreography, the amazing theme, everything. It was just so much better. And the fact that she was an actual role model to that young girl and made sure that all these hostages were taken care of is just such a true testament to who the character is at its core and how Snyder understands her, rather than someone just there for looks. Yes, a lot of people complained about her murdering the terrorist, but look, I don't really care, to be honest. Like, sure, her moral compass may be a little bit off, but it's not like she was just an innocent bystander anyway. I mean, yeah, I agree, he should have just been locked away, but look, it's not that big of a deal to me. Anyway, her exploring the Amazon building and learning more about Darkseid, and then telling Bruce and recruiting the team, all was an improvement over the theatrical movie. And then in the final battle and in the entire final act, her killing Steppenwolf and everything, all of it was amazing. Except, however, Gal's acting, which I think was a little bit off with her delivery on some lines, but that's just a minor complaint as the character was so well written. And of course, the whole Themyscira plot at the beginning of the movie was so much better in this movie, and easily one of the best battles out of the entire whole movie. I said movie about 4 times in that sentence, I apologise. But yeah, the Amazonians were minor characters, but Wonder Woman was amazing. So let's just move on. Moving on to Cyborg, who obviously got treated the worst in the theatrical cut, both Ray Fisher and Cyborg. In that version, he was just a boring, broody character who literally nobody cared for at all. And when Snyder said that his backstory played a large role in this version and was the heart of the movie, I was not excited at all to see it, as he was so boring and bland in the original version, and I didn't care for him at all. However, it is safe to say that I was extremely surprised with how it was executed in this movie. Seeing he and his father, who I actually really loved and actually got emotional over his death, both him and his father interacting, as well as his reaction to the mother box awakening and his entire backstory with the football game and the death of his mother, and then that montage sequence with him discovering his powers and then helping that woman to get more money, and then at the end he faces his true fear in the mother box, which is when he sees his parents saying we can live a normal life, and he just shuts them all away and everything. All of it. I loved it so much, and Ray Fisher's performance made me empathise with it all as well. That was all amazing, and I really wish to see him going forward in the DCEU, whether it be directed by Snyder or even in the Flash movie. I wish things worked out better with Warner Brothers so he could be in the future movies, but even if we don't, he was still amazing in this movie, and I'm still grateful we got the chance to see it. I really loved Cyborg in this movie, and as I said before, they all had a bigger role to play in this movie, and with him, separating the Trinity in the end, that was all great. Now moving on to Aquaman and the additional characters and scenes in Atlantis. In this movie, he got some great character development we have never seen previously, at least in the previous movie, and we got to learn a lot more about the world of which he came from. Although we already have a solo movie for him, this movie would have come out before this and would have laid out the groundwork for that movie. Now, some may say that it isn't canon to that movie, as the way the Atlanteans speak and Mary's accent and backstory, everything, they're all different. It didn't really bother me that much, as I enjoy what we got, if we take it on its own merit. And if considering Warner Brothers is saying that this isn't canon, you can't really complain that it doesn't make sense, because apparently it's not canon, even though I think it is, but whatever. I mean, I guess it really doesn't make sense, as this would have been a part of the canon had it been released in 2017. Because so why don't they, work with James Gunn and Jason Momoa on making it make sense? But I mean, whatever. It is what it is. Now, while Arthur had most of the slow motion scenes and longest ones, he also had some great moments, in particular with Nudist portrayed by Willem Dafoe, and further development into why he eventually decided to pick up the trident to fight in Gotham City Harbor with the Josstice League, rather than him just randomly showing up like in the theatrical version. And although we had Mero's weird accent and trash Amber Heard still in this movie, we also got more exploration of Atlantis, including the addition of Willem Dafoe, as I said before, as a nudist Volko, and we got better fight scenes with Mero, and the additional scenes of Steppenwolf with the Atlanteans, interrogating them, stuff like that. All of it was great and such a major improvement over the last version of this movie. And now let's discuss Barry Allen / The Flash. Now look, my feelings on this character in both versions are very mixed. On one hand, he saved Josstice League, as his character was the only one I actually really enjoyed, and I found him to be so funny because the bar was so low in regards to humour and comedy and character arcs and stuff like that in the movie. The bar was so low, therefore I thought he was the best, which isn't saying much about, his comedy, but just because the bar was so low, it made him seem really good. And although his humour was really bad, it just seemed to be so great in comparison to the other garbage in that movie. And the miscasting really distracted me from full on liking the character, as I don't feel Ezra is the best Barry, but he fits what the movie is going for. However, in this movie, he was much better. He still had some one-liners which fell flat a little bit, and Ezra still didn't have the best delivery as Barry, but he was much better and actually had a role to play, rather than just pushing this random truck in a Russian town, and that's all he did in the final battle. In particular, upon the team losing to the Trinity and it finally gets united, he reverses time so they can all survive. And that scene was amazing, and I was on the edge of my seat when the thing exploded, and then I was like, oh crap, they all lost. That was amazing. And then, of course, he reverses time so they can all survive. And I don't know why Warner Brothers cut it, minus the fact that maybe they didn't really want him to have this power until the Flash movie, perhaps. I don't really know. I'm not so sure. It showed his true power. It had an amazing iconic score by Junkie XL, as I said before. The visuals were breathtaking, and his amazing monologue to his father to tell him that he was one of them. All of it was amazing. This is like my favourite moment in the final battle. It was amazing. Such a great scene. Now let's discuss the villains in the story, Steppenwolf and Darkseid. Steppenwolf was so much better in this iteration than he was in the last. Although upon originally seeing his design, I think just around fandom, I didn't really like it at all, and I didn't really like either version. Seeing it in live action in this movie made him so much more menacing, a badass, and was epic overall. On top of this, he actually got a proper motivation as to why he did what he did, and his interactions with the Zard, who I said, didn't have the best CGI, but his interactions with him were great. And that hilarious, pleading face meme that's been everywhere. He's so cute. I just want to hug him. I feel so bad for him. It actually really made me care for the character, and adding on to what I said before regarding the stakes, made him feel more like an actual threat this time. I'd really love to see a little bit more about his backstory as to, why he betrayed Darkseid and what happened with that. And, had it been after Josstice League, I wouldn't have cared about him, nor his backstory at all. But because this movie fleshed him out so much further, it really made me enjoy his portrayal and wanted to see more about him. Regarding Darkseid, although he wasn't in it as much as I thought he would have been based off the trailers and stuff, he was still extremely epic when he wasn't it. Seeing the flashback scene with all the leagues combined and, him killing Wonder Woman and Cyborg's nightmare scene and using the Omega beams in Atlantis, all of it was amazing. And then at the end, when he was staring down the Josstice League through that portal, it made me on the edge of my seat and made me really want to see him versus the League in a future movie. I mean, we probably won't, but that would be so epic to see, and great villains overall, and the backstory and everything regarding the two of them was so much better in this movie. And then moving on to Superman supporting characters, really only Lois and Martha in this movie, who even that wasn't really a main character, as we found out it was Martian Manhunter. My feelings on these characters are a little bit mixed. On the one hand, I really love the interactions in this movie over the theatrical, no more of those thirsty lines. However, I wish Lois served a more important role, rather than just brooding over Clark's death for the whole movie and bringing back normal Clark. At least in Josstice League, she did some journalism work too. I also wish we saw more of the world's view as to, how the death of Superman impacted them, rather than Lois being like the only view into the world. I wish we saw other characters as well. Like, it was good that we saw how it affected her, but I wish we saw other perspectives too. And regarding Martha, I've already spoken to how I feel that scene was a bit unnecessary, you know, with the reveal that it was Martian Manhunter. I felt a little bit forced and shoehorned in. You know, I thought it would be much more impactful had it actually been Martha, because it would have been more personal, the interactions and stuff like that. But the reveal takes away from that scene. It feels really shoehorned in, but it was alright for the most part. And additionally, all the other side characters that were added or given further development in this movie in relation to Barry as well were great. And as I said, regarding Cyborg's backstory, that was great as well, with his father and everything. And of course with Alfred and his interactions. All the side characters were great. In particular, Iris and Henry. As I said before, the scene with Iris was not that necessary, nor really gave any backstory to Barry, as he only just met her. But the interaction, the music, and the visuals were amazing. Like, some may argue that the scene was creepy as he was just stroking her face and then grabs the hot dog or whatever. But at least in my opinion, it looked like they both loved each other very much in that moment. And of course, the beautiful visuals and that music in the background of that scene, that was great. And I'm really glad that Warner Brothers is keeping Iris as actress in the Flashpoint movie and keeping this scene canon, further proving why I feel like this movie is the canon version. And Henry, his father, was also amazing. And while I didn't have as much screen time as I thought and hoped he would, I found him to be very impactful while he was on screen. And Billy Crudup is an amazing actor, and the chemistry between him and Ezra were great. And I was really disappointed to hear that he won't be in the Flashpoint movie due to scheduling conflicts, but you know, that can't be helped. I'm still looking forward to that movie very much regardless, but yeah, it'll be a pity not seeing him in it. Second to last is Ryan Choi, who played a very minor role in this movie and wasn't in the previous movie at all. But even still, he actually had a role to play in this movie. And actually, when he showed up and he said, "I'm Ryan Choi," I completely forgot that he was supposed to be in this movie. So yeah, he was really cool, along with Cyborg's father, who I really enjoyed and was surprised by how much I did. And the two of them worked together very well. And I really hope to see a Ryan Choi Adam movie if that ever does happen. I know Zack pushed for it, but Warner Brothers is just mess, so who knows if that'll ever happen, but we'll have to wait and see. Now finally, we're going to discuss right now is the nightmare scene and all those involved, including Mirror, Deathstroke, a Flash, Joker, etc. While it didn't really add much to the overall story, it was a great conclusion to this movie and really set up what was originally to come very well. Look, while Jared Leto isn't the best Joker, his interactions with Bruce were awesome in the scene, minus a few jokes which didn't really land properly in my opinion, and I think you guys know what I'm talking about. I don't have to repeat them now.
Besides, who's gonna give you a reach around?
I'm glad we finally got to see the two of them interacting properly, even if it wasn't actually them on set together. His look was awesome, much better than Suicide Squad at least, and seeing these actors filming this additional scene last year was awesome as well. And the idea of Superman going bad after the death of Lois was a little bit disappointing as well. As I said before, I hoped that he would have been the Superman we all know and love after this movie in the trilogy, but I guess it is a post-apocalyptic, futuristic nightmare timeline, so it's fine. And of course we have that amazing scene with Bruce and Martian Manhunter at the end, which was cool, along with the setup of the original Batman movie, with Lex revealing Batman's name to Slade, which I was very shocked by, as I thought, saying, why don't we build a team of our own, would be the Snyder footage, but it was actually Joss Whedon. I thought that was actually Snyder's idea, but it was actually Joss Whedon, so I'm surprised by that. All of it was amazing and a great way to conclude this movie. Now let's just discuss my overall thoughts on this movie. Now that I've discussed the good stuff, mixed stuff, and bad stuff, and the character arcs in general, let's just conclude this review out. Here we go. In conclusion, Zack Snyder's Justice League is a significant improvement over the theatrical version, no doubt about it. The additional runtime and added scenes allows for some much needed character development and expedition, and it actually makes you care about the characters this time, and each character has an important role to play throughout the entire movie. The team finally feels united as an actual team, and there is no unnecessary banter like the theatrical. The stakes are much higher and it actually feels like there is a threat at large. And of course the visuals and scoring are amazing. However, this movie is not without flaws, such as the fan service feels very shoehorned in, and the bad pacing, extended runtime, etc. Is it a masterpiece? No, but it was still really great, and I would love to see it continue in the future, but I highly doubt it. If not, I'm still glad that we got this, as I never thought we would get this to begin with. So overall, I give Zack Snyder's Justice League an 8 out of 10, and highly recommend it for people who are big fans of DC and just the general viewers too. So with that marks the conclusion of this review. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications so you guys know when I next upload a video. And comment your thoughts on the movie in general and this review. Let me know if you disagree with something, if you agree, and I'm happy to discuss with you guys in a polite manner down below in the comment section down below. And there's only one more video to do before Jordan's Weekly Breakdown comes back, which will be ranking all DCEU movies, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that. And then Jordan's Weekly Breakdown will return a week after, unless I procrastinate long enough that Falcon Winter Soldier ends, and then I'll do my review for that. So yeah, stay tuned, follow me on Twitter, enjoy my Discord server, link is in the description. We're currently discussing The Flash, Superman and Lois, Falcon Winter Soldier, Zack Snyder's Josstice League. A lot of things going on in the server, so to be sure to join. And that's really it. That's really all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time. My name is Jordan, and I'm out. Bye, and restore the Snyderverse. Goodbye.